3 generations after you're dead and gone, there won't be another living person who ever knew you. It's pretty much of a generalization, but there's a whole lot of truth in it. Something to think about when we're standing here in a cemetery and we look at all these headstones and all the marble towers and all that kind of stuff that has names and birth dates and death dates and all that. We do what we can as humans to be remembered, to make sure that we're never forgotten. But some of the things that we do while we're living is we build a house, we buy a nice car, we do whatever we can so that people will respect us, think that we're a somebody. And it feels pretty good for a little while, but then after a while that feeling fades. And then we start having new goals, bigger house, more houses, fancier car, maybe a houseboat down here on the lake. The things that we do to seek validation. It's okay to have creature comforts, but is that what we're doing? We're trying to be comfortable? I mean, do we really need a 10,000 square foot home for 3 people? I'm just saying. Maybe it's seeking validation. My dad was one of those people who always went around seeking validation. He spent most of his life seeking validation. He worked. He had the nice houses, the nice vehicles, nice cars, the nice trucks. He owned property. He did all the things to try to get that validation, to feel good about himself. He was what we would call successful. He had the money, the property. He had the community respect. But the thing they didn't see was that my dad was always working. And you know what else he was? He was always miserable. And that's the sad part of this whole story. He had everything that the community thought that he should have, that he thought would bring him respect, validation, but he never could find joy in it for himself. He was so miserable that he made everybody around him miserable too. And that's just a sad fact. I mean, I hate to say that about my dad, but that's just the way it is. He made us all miserable. He used to tell me when I was a little boy, son, you've got to dig the ditch deeper, you got to dig it faster, and you got to stay later and come earlier than anybody else if you want people to respect you. Okay, I get that. He was instilling a work ethic in me, but to what end? That was the thing. One day, I was out working in a tobacco patch, and the sprayer was spraying the tobacco, and I was over here on the other side topping tobacco. The wind was blowing the spray over onto me, and I got so sick. I got just as sick as I could be. And so I walked out of the tobacco patch, and I went over and sat down under a shade tree. I got some water. I was sitting there under the tree in the shade. It's very hot. It's late August, early September. And I was sitting there trying to rest a little bit and get some water in me and get over being sick. And Dad pulled in his truck. And when he saw me sitting in the shade, he went off, because no son of his was going to be sitting in the shade resting while other people were out working. And so he was going to teach me a lesson. He went to his truck, he got out a tobacco stick, and he was going to use it on me like he had so many times before when I was growing up. By this time, I was about 17, and I was to the point that I just wasn't going to take it anymore. So I walked to my truck, and I got a tobacco stick out of my truck. And we kind of had a little face-off. And I told him, I said, "You've hit me for the last time." And then he got angry because I stood up to him, got in his truck, and left. Later that day, I'll fast forward a little bit here. Later that day, I was in my truck, and I was driving up the road. And I was thinking to myself, is this really how I want to live my life? Because I had been convinced up until that time that, yes, I was going to work hard and I was going to make the money and I was going to have the respect and the validation from the community and all the things. But I was driving up the road later that evening in my truck, and I had what I'll call my Damascus Road experience. Out of the blue, for whatever reason, something just hit me. And I said to myself, I am not going to live this way. It's not going to happen. So then I had to think, well, what am I going to do? That was a foreign concept to me. I was doing all I knew how to do, and that was work. So I had to think about, what do I need to do? Well, I had that Damascus Road experience where I had that sudden conversion, if you will, in my way of thinking, but I didn't really know how to carry it out. It took me several years to change the way I do things and to figure out what was really important to me. All I knew is I wanted to make myself a better person. Maybe you want to make yourself a better person. I don't know. Maybe that's why you're watching this. But I'll tell you what I did, just very briefly. I decided that I was going to start being present with the people I love. I wasn't just going to be there, and I wasn't going to be gone working all the time. Though part of my life I did. This all came about over a long process of several years. It didn't just, the changes didn't happen overnight. The change in thinking did happen instantly. But the lifestyle changes, it took a long time to figure out what was working. I was going to be present with the people I love. I was going to have experiences. My dad and mom never got to go anywhere because he was always too busy working. He's always, oh, well, we'll do it next year, we'll do it next summer, or we'll do it when we retire. And you know how that story goes. They never did any of it. So I said, I'm going to have experiences. I'm going to travel, and I'm going to do things while I can. I mean, I don't have tons of money, never did. But I decided that I was going to do things while I could. Even if it was a hardship, I was still going to do it. I was going to have these experiences. And then later on in life, when I was 39, I actually started teaching. I became a high school teacher. And that turned out to be the most fulfilling thing I've ever done in my life. I guess in a way, that's what I'm doing right now. So you need to think about, are you living the life that you want now? Because 3 generations after you're gone, nobody's going to remember you anyway. So why don't you do what works for you now? Why don't you make a difference in your own life? Why don't you make a difference in other people's lives, however you can? Because when you can change somebody's life a little bit for the better, and then they change somebody's life a little bit for the better, you continue to live on. You know, these tombstones, some of them say, gone but not forgotten. That's not true. You will be gone, and you will be forgotten. So you can live to generations or 4 generations to come by making someone else's life better. That's how you live forever. Thank you.